This is an incredibly influential film.
Absolutely. Every little moment works perfectly. It only gets better each time you see it.
Hidey-ho!
It is the definition of filmmaking at its best.
And it just lights up the screen. It kind of blows all the competition away. It's essential.
I've only one chance to get back where I belong. To land a job on a small-town paper like yours and wait and hope and pray for something big to break. Something I can latch onto. Something the wire services will gobble up and yell for more. Just one good beat, a Tatum special, and they'll roll out the red carpet.
So, Brad, you're picking movies for the essentials, and I guess you were always going to head in some Billy Wilder direction.
Absolutely, and the ones I went for are the ones that you would imagine, you know, Sunset Boulevard and The Apartment, which I love and are really essential. Everybody should see them. But I then had second thoughts, and this is the only film of the essentials where I kind of called you guys back and said, hey, I want to call an audible here, and it's Ace in the Hole, and it's also essential, but it's not one that a lot of people have seen, and the reasons are obvious. It's a nasty, nasty movie.
Here's some of what you need to know about Ace in the Hole. Billy Wilder said, because this movie failed at the box office, it was the film he made.
No.
yeah, it's no shock there. It's the film he made immediately after Sunset Boulevard, and he said, I lost a lot of capital on Ace in the Hole, but it was the best thing I ever did.
Really?
Yeah, so...
I didn't know that.
So I am not knocking Sunset Boulevard, which I adore, Stalag 17,
Sure.
The Apartment.
Some like it hot.
Some like it hot. I am less enthusiastic about it than others.
Some like it lukewarm for you.
Some like it. But that said, of course, it's terrific. Sabrina's my wife's favorite movie. But this, to me, is by far the best Billy Wilder movie, and I'm comforted by the fact that it's also Billy Wilder's choice as the best thing he ever did. This is a savage look at the power of the press when that power is mishandled.
Yes, and I think that it's a bracing movie for right now because the press is in the crosshairs, as it should be, but it is also completely essential to any, free country. And so while the press has huge power that it can abuse, and this film goes into that, but it also must be present and healthy for a democracy to work. So it seems like it's a very topical film in its own way. And, I think journalists are toughest on journalists.
Yes, that's right. I think so, too. Look, the media in this country is under a daily assault, the press, and there are legitimate arguments to make. The corporatization of the media has created a degree of groupthink that doesn't serve anyone. That said, much of what we know comes from reporters.
Well, Watergate is essential and a very, heroic moment for journalism. And yet what came in the wake of Watergate was a lot of sort of negative reaction where reporters are trying to become the story. And this movie goes into that. And it's devastating. Most of the movie is filled with characters that are just kind of reprehensible, but fascinating.
Yeah, David Thompson, the critic, said that every single person in this movie is either an idiot or vicious.
Yeah, or vicious idiot. Kirk Douglas is one of those guys that has a tremendous body of work, has never been better than this film, and he's been great often.
The way things look, there's going to be other newspapermen trying to horn in on this story. A lot of them. Maybe all the way from New York. This is my story. I want to keep it mine.
So we get in Douglas a guy who shows up in The Strange Love of Martha Ivers, but then in movies like Champion, I Walk Alone, later The Bad and the Beautiful, this is a guy who could play a villain out of the past.
Out of the past.
Right. One of your essentials choices. So Kirk Douglas became to some extent, a matinee idol and a big star and a hero. But early in his career, he played villainous, and he does it. He's never better than right here.
Yeah, but he also used that association, that early association he had with the audience, to good effect when he played a hero. You know, he plays Ned Land in 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea, and he's a charming figure, but he's a rogue, you know, and he kind of screws things up in 20,000 Leagues. And yet, he, you know, when you watch him on screen, he's all charisma.
Yeah, that's right. Brad, thanks very much. Here's the film from 1951, written and directed by Billy Wilder.
The great Billy Wilder.
The great Billy Wilder. Kirk Douglas, Jan Sterling, Ace in the Hole. So there's a line in Ace in the Hole, which is one of my favorite lines. If I were to do a top 20 list of my best lines, this would be somewhere on it. When he's trying to talk himself into the job, and Porter Hall plays the editor of the paper, and he's wearing a belt and suspenders. And Douglas says to him,
Done a lot of lying in my time. I've lied to men who wear belts. I've lied to men who wear suspenders. But I'd never be so stupid as to lie to a man who wears both belt and suspenders.
How's that again?
I mean, because nothing says that's a cautious man than a guy who wears a belt and my pants are not going to fall down under any circumstances. I have a fail-safe.
That's right. Yeah, no, and Billy Wilder is a great line machine. You know, he cranked out a number of killer lines during his career.
Kirk Douglas borrowed from Warner Brothers $150,000 for this, and you definitely, we talked about it a little before, but you see in Douglas that this is a movie star. I mean, when he is on screen, and it's not just the way Wilder shoots him, you are drawn to him.
Yeah, he's got a riveting presence in film, and it's funny because, you know, when you see a movie like Out of the Past, he kind of pops up in it. He's not the star of the movie, but the second he appears on the screen, he feels like a star.
Totally.
And so you don't have any question why he ended up becoming a leading man and everything, because he just lights up the screen every time he gets on it.
He's often compared his contemporary Burt Lancaster, the same kind of actor. They look a little bit alike.
Right.
You know, there's the
Got the magnificent chin.
there's the Olivier movie where he actually confuses them. And he reminds me here of Lancaster a little bit in Sweet Smell of Success, but mostly Lancaster.
Also a nasty film.
A nasty film, right. But also of Lancaster and Elmer Gantry, where what he's saying is wrong, there's a dishonesty to him, but the charisma is, you cannot take your eyes off.
Well, and that's the contradiction that is right there, is when you watch them sell something that's kind of venal, you realize how much we have that in our daily lives. You know, there are snake oil salesmen that are very convincing, and you know they're snake oil salesmen, but when they talk, sometimes you start going, I might want to get me some of that snake oil, you know?
Right, yeah.
And then you go, what am I thinking?
How have
It's
I
snake
lived,
oil.
How have I lived so long without snake oil? You know, I started as a journalist. I went to journalism school. I thought my career was going to be in journalism. I still think some of that journalism applies to what we do here at TCM. Certainly does for me. But the best journalism movies, I mean, like Deadline USA is great, All the President's Men,
yeah.
Great sort of triumphant journalism stories, and there are others. But then the ones I think of are Ace in the Hole, Facing the Crowd, Network.
Network,
right?
yeah, absolutely.
These movies where the power of journalism and the power of the press is exploited in some hideous way. And those stories clearly are capable of captivating us, as Ace in the Hole does.
Yeah, when you see people sucking up and punching down.
That's right. Yeah.
You know, which is always in relationship to power. It becomes very clear all the ways it exists in daily life. And movies are great at cutting through all the defense systems you normally put up. I mean, we all have our biases, I'm on this side, you're on that side, but movies, because at their best they're so entertaining and engaging, they make you drop your defenses, and then they go boom, you know, and land these punches, and you learn something about not only the world around you but yourself.
Brad, as usual, great stuff. Thanks.
Thank you. It's a blast.
Here's a look at what's coming up next week on The Essentials with Brad Bird. Dr. Strangelove from 1964.
I love all of Kubrick's work, but Dr. Strangelove is my favorite and one of the greatest comedies ever made.
There's no point in you getting hysterical at a moment like this.
Peter Sellers is so memorable as the president and as Dr. Strangelove, of course, but I think the funniest role is as Group Captain Lionel Mandrake.
Right.
This film is just as unsettling and hilarious today as it was when it was first released.
That's next Saturday at 8 p.m. Eastern. Continue the conversation on Facebook and Twitter using the hashtag TCM Essentials. Thanks for joining us for The Essentials.